Siamo ancora all'introduzione del nostro lavoro.
We are still at the introduction of our work, and the question with which we start is this. Do we Christians know more or less? Or should we know what the gifts are that God has given us and Jesus has revealed to us? In the first place is the gift of His person. Sometimes we need to realize, because it is a historical issue, the gifts that He has brought to all men. We are of Christ, but Christ is not only ours, He is of everyone, even those who do not know it and who do not know Him. Sometimes it is important to try to understand the gifts that He has given to the world, of which the world has lived and lives for centuries. Why? Because the world has received them and exploited them, but often forgets them and betrays them. Does no one remember them? We have a task. One of the greatest gifts that God has given us is the revelation of what is meant by the word human person, person in general. What does it mean, the word person? It is the mystery and the beauty and the truth and the joy, the enthusiasm and the charm of this word that we use so easily. Rather, we are even used to it, and this is already a gift that comes from Him, to talk about the dignity of the human person. You see, before Jesus could be considered, this could be a long story, but let's make it short. The person, dignity that he counts. So, this person was who played a certain role, had an elevated role. It could have been someone in the field of philosophy, in the field of art, of politics, of sport. Even a gladiator became an important person or character. Or someone who was born from a certain type of family. Someone who occupied a certain social level. That was a person. And we could say his dignity was, in fact, that he had a recognizable face. You know that when ancients spoke of the slaves, they would say, they are people who did not have an aspect, who did not have a face. They counted for nothing. Then there were also people who were the scraps of society. Even if today Pope Francis still reminds us that there are still a lot of scraps in society. The idea of person established itself with Christianity. I will read two texts, scientific texts, to document this. One is from Hegel. He describes this. The Christian faith must give this recognition that it was the first to introduce to the history of humanity not only and not just the concept of person, but the affirmation of person, and therefore equipped with inalienable dignity is every single man. And even, he wrote, the creep who I am. You see? He said a person counts. A person is every man, every human being. This man, even if he is little, he doesn't count for anything. Christianity imposed this. And this is demonstrated by the care that Christians immediately have had for this type of man. In particular for the poorest, the most marginalized, those that did not count for anything. Another text. The action of Christianity in our time has created a society that is not comparable to any other, and this trend has unified the world. As you examine ancient evidence, and yes, we do research, you will not find anything that resembles, even from afar, to modern concern for victims. Neither China's Mandarins, nor Japan's Sumeris, nor the Indies, nor the pre-Columbian civilization, nor Greece, nor Rome of the Republic or Rome of the Empire, none of them had minimally cared for victims. Those with their generous hands sacrificed to the gods, to the honor, to the homeland, to the ambition. By then, to really escape to Christianity, our world should dispense altogether with sensitivity for victims. So in Christianity, the words that we use, the words hospice, hospital, orphanage, these words did not even exist in the vocabulary of the Greeks and Romans. These words were created after. In those times, an ill person was thrown on the road if there was not a relative or someone who would take care of him. There were no social institutions for this. With Christianity, this was beginning to arise. When the Emperor Julian the Apostate decides to destroy Christianity, and he realized he was not succeeding, he wrote, as if to yell, "How do you want me to destroy this plague?" And by plague he meant Christian people. How do you want me to destroy this plague when all the care of the needy is in their hands, and you do nothing? He recognized that aspect of caring for every person was becoming crucial from the point of view of society. Here I would like to take a small pause. If in history we really did like it should be done, and one began to reread the saints and put in a row all the saints of charity and the works they have made, if you really put in a row all the saints of charity and the words they have made, wow. In France, the hospice is called Hotel God. In Brescia, there is the House of God. this care that the saints have had in the field of sickness, education, in the field of abandoned children, in the field of old age.
Cura che i santi hanno avuto nel campo della malattia, nel campo dell'istruzione, nel campo
In these fields of the most extreme,
della vecchiaia, diciamo, divenuta per così dire inutile.
we remember Father Damian di Vester with his lepers who were not even buried,
Tanto tempo fa,
but thrown to the pigs.
coi suoi
They were so great.
che non venivano nemmeno seppelliti,
The other evening, I was with the family,
gettati ai maiali, va bene? L'altro giorno,
and they turned on the TV,
visto per caso, casualmente, non guardo quasi mai la televisione,
and on channel 2000,
devo aspettare della gente.
there was a young Indian
Mi hanno acceso la televisione, c'era un programma
who spoke with a very sweet tone.
e vedo un giovane,
He said,
bel giovane,
I am here to give thanks. First of all,
parla,
I am here to thank my mother,
dolce,
who had abandoned me,
racconta,
whom I have never known.
per ringraziare.
But before abandoning me,
Voglio ringraziare
she wrote
che mi ha abbandonato.
her name on my arm.
Però dice, prima di abbandonarmi, mi ha scritto il suo nome di donna.
This makes me understand
Sul mio braccino hanno trovato un nome di donna.
that she left me a sign, and she did so because she probably could not keep me.
Prima di lasciarmi ha voluto mettermi un segno
She abandoned me in a bin of rubbish
che probabilmente mi ha
outside of Mother Teresa's house.
non riusciva più a tenere.
I, abandoned by this mother that I loved and that I never knew. And then he read her name from his arm.
Teresa dice, io abbandonato da questa mamma vi voglio bene, che non ho mai conosciuto.
I was passed
Era il nome della mamma ancora sul braccio,
from this bin of rubbish
il tentativo
to the arms of Mother Teresa.
di sperare che qualcuno si facesse
The first maternal warmth I recall
sono
were her
passato
arms and her tenderness.
fino delle immondizie nelle braccia di Madre Teresa.
I went to see on the registers what she wrote of me,
Che ricordo
the day, the date,
sono le sue braccia, la sua tenerezza,
and then he said, I grew up in her institutes.
quello che ha scritto di me.
I was adopted by a French family.
Quasi anni.
I have to thank very much my French mother.
Sono passato, poi dice, sono cresciuto nei suoi istituti,
Why now I am here?
mi ha adottato una famiglia francese,
Because I was destined to be nothing,
molto la mia mamma di Francia.
and now I am happy.
Perché dice sono qui?
And then he concluded,
Perché la mia vita era,
in a few days I'm going to be a priest.
e ora sono felice. E concludeva, questo, tra qualche giorno diventerò sacerdote.
So understand, what is important is not the sentimentalism.
Cioè, una storia
What you were reading in the eyes and then in the heart is the perception of people
nei sentimentalismi
that do not count for anything
degli occhi.
until they enter in a hug.
La percezione
And this hug could be a community, a church, a saint, another family.
finché non
They
è,
count for nothing until they enter a hug that tells them,
questo abbraccio può essere una comunità, può essere una
you
chiesa,
are unique in the
può
world.
essere un'altra famiglia, fin quando non entra in un abbraccio,
Many, unfortunately,
tu sei
do not find anyone to say it to them.
che poi
But we can also admit that hundreds, thousands, millions of people
non nessuno che gliene
have found in Christian history
è vero, ma possiamo anche ammettere che centinaia
and what Christian history has produced in culture.
trovato nella storia cristiana.
They found the affirmation
La cristiana,
that the human person is unique,
cristiana ha prodotto,
unrepeatable, inviolable, worthy.
hanno trovato l'affermazione che la persona umana, ogni persona umana è unica.
Why do I say that we must not forget the influence of all of this? Because this influence continues even where the fact is denied.
Dobbiamo dimenticare l'influsso di tutto questo.
Let's have a little bit of a history lesson.
Perfino laddove
In these days, we have talked a lot about America and its problems.
facciamo un po' di storia.
I will read from the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America, 1776. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Every man has a right to happiness. Is it really like this? But they sent to write this. It is the identity card of a nation that was born. Now I will read from the Italian Constitution, 1948, Article 2 and 3. It says, the Republic recognizes and guarantees the inviolable rights of man as an individual, both in social formations, where he carries out his personality. All citizens have equal social dignity and are equal before the law. These things have not been pulled out from a pagan culture, but have been pulled out by a river of history that has brought forth this persuasion. Now I will read from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, from the preamble. It says, whereas recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights for all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. And then from the first article, all human beings are endowed all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act in the spirit of brotherhood. Now I will read from the European Constitution. It says, the Union is founded on the indivisible and universal values of human dignity, freedom, and equality and solidarity. Human dignity is inviolable. So you see, we continue to feel obliged to express ourselves like so when we are talking, when we are making a speech, when we are making a program. And then we realize that there is a current that has realized all of this. It is achieved if this pure water, which comes from afar, which comes from Jesus Christ himself, it is achieved if it penetrates in life. Okay, let's make an example. In 1885, a young girl, very sweet, good and intelligent, she is about to enter the monastery. It is Teresa of Lisieux. And as soon as she is in the convent, she will begin to write her childhood memories. And she begins with those incredible words in which she says, speaking about herself, but she's speaking for all. God treats us as if each of us, as if he were unique in the world. In 1888, not very far from what Teresa wrote, in Germany, Nietzsche writes in his work, The Antichrist.
descrive così,
First principle,
il filosofo si chiama Nietzsche,
our love for man,
stesso anno,
the weak
opera,
and the botched, should succumb,
primo principio,
and we must help them in this
amore per
sense.
gli uomini,
We must slay them.
i deboli, i malriusciti,
The compassion hinders totally the law of evolution.
e bisogna aiutarli in tal
It
senso.
preserves who is ripe for the purpose,
La compassione intralcia totalmente la legge
opposes resistance to the advantage of the impoverished
conserva
and those sentenced to life.
conserva ciò che è maturo, oppone resistenza
He gives life itself through the abundance of the botched of any species,
condannati alla vita,
which keeps alive a grey appearance and precarious.
ferisce alla vita stessa attraverso l'abbondanza dei
He's saying
di ogni specie che
that the response in the face of all the deformed or botched, of the incapable,
fatto qualcosa. Cioè dice la nostra
is
risposta a tutti
the knife.
i deformi, le persone incapaci, immature, è il coltello. La nostra risposta.
There is also another author who speaks of the duty of a true man.
Un altro
Important, which must succeed, is to delete everything that is waste,
dell'uomo vero, dell'uomo
to eliminate them.
importante, dell'uomo che deve riuscire
This is the
a
future.
eliminare tutto ciò che
So now we come to our times.
perché questo è il futuro. Veniamo ai nostri tempi.
When we speak of the first rights, dignity, freedom,
Si deve scrivere una Costituzione, qualcosa.
but when we speak of the first of these rights, that is life, there is the talk of euthanasia, abortion, genetic engineering, gender. And it can be seen that the attacks on the person continue.
Eutanasia, ingegneria genetica, ideologia del gender,
And today there are philosophers,
aggressioni
scholars who say
all'essere
that human individuals in certain physical or psychological conditions cannot be regarded as a person. While there are non-human animals that are so developed as to be able to be considered people. In particular, there is a philosopher that says, not all human beings are persons. The fetuses, infants, the mentally retarded, the seriously ill, and those who are in coma without hope constitute examples of non-human persons, while there are animals that are human persons.
e coloro che sono in coma senza speranza
So we ask ourselves,
sono esempi di non persone umane,
we ask ourselves,
gli animali che sono persone umane.
where is it going to end with our Christian history that was penetrated even in mind, in the documents, and in the experience of non-Christians?
Diciamo, era penetrato fino nella
We must rediscover this history.
nei documenti, nelle esperienze
The first thing,
cristiane, dove sta andando a finire. Ecco, dobbiamo
when Jesus came to earth, he was a man like all other. He appeared as a man.
Gesù è venuto sulla terra,
Those who were close to him
non come tutti gli altri.
loved him and listened to him.
Chi gli è stato vicino e gli ha voluto bene
Over time,
lo ha ascoltato.
they noticed an immense dignity that this man possessed in himself. A dignity that allowed him to speak of God with extreme familiarity.
Una dignità tale
You know, a Russian author says that Jesus used the word Father,
con
referring to God, as we use the word I.
Gesù
I and the Father are one.
Padre, riferendosi a Dio.
The Father has sent me. The Father loves me. The Father is with me always.
Siamo una cosa sola.
The Jews were very scandalized.
Il Padre mi ama. Il Padre
Jesus was saying Father and wanted to speak of God.
scandalizza.
The God of the law, the immense God, the infinite God, the Creator God.
Ma Gesù molte volte diceva papà. E
As soon as this thing was put into question,
legge
he undertook those gestures that are called miracles and showed a particular introspection, a capacity to understand man, to intuit, to read their hearts, their consciences. And their realities, it was so overwhelming that really whomever was near Jesus could say, no one has ever talked like him. No one has ever acted like him. No one is as strong as him. Even when he arrives on the cross and dies, the Roman centurion says, truly this man was the Son of God. Even on the cross, he was speaking words of forgiveness, of goodness. He was battered but had an infinite heart, truly open. So let's use the person of Jesus has a characteristic such that it becomes equal to the term person. And here is the word Son. I am the Son. I am the Son of God. I am the Son of God. Let's think of some words in our vocabulary. Obedience, thankfulness, willingness, letting go. These words seem humble, but they become beautiful when they are the words of the Son. This is what Jesus did when he said, when you pray, say that our Father who art in heaven. He told us that we had to turn to God as he does, and that the human being, any human being, before all else, is a son. This could be someone ill, someone old. The first thing we must say is that person is a son. What do all people have in common? If we look at culture, if we look at age, intelligence, our activities, we look at all the diversity, we all have in common one thing: to be sons. God invented the story so that the first man was his son. So, this son came out of him. He created a man. Then he gave him a mate, so to generate other sons. This is incredible. What must we recuperate? We are forced to say, in a beautiful sense, any human person that I brush against, and notice, everyone, this is the concept of neighbor. Any human person that I brush against, in his or her most profound nature, and his or her deeper self, is untouchable, because there is a Father who generated him, and it is not only the Father, but by Father it is only a sign, a representative with the Mother, is God. God treats each of us as if he or she were unique in the world. Do you realize from the psychological point of view what it means? How many people today are suffering because they do not feel fulfilled, because they are depressed, because they are not valued, because they fear themselves. There are people who pass their lives as to not be judged by others, but they judge themselves and hurt themselves. How much healing would come out, even psychological healing, if everyone each morning says, God, you are my Father. I am what you think of me. I exist for the object that you want to entrust to me. And even if everyone says to me that I have no value, I know to be in your heart and in your mind. Maybe, perhaps, we need a sort of universal therapy that restores to us the sense of the word I, the sense of the word me. Point number 2. Our me is done in a way that it needs a you. The me is everything, is complete, is total, but has need of relationships. It has need of a you. It cannot live without relationships. All relationships are born, steeped, and in need of love. The person who has need of another asks himself this question: who is my you? And there is not a more beautiful experience in the world than when a person says, you are my, excuse me if I repeat, you are my you. For example, the person that I recognize in front of me that I love. Each of us needs a you. I have to be sure of you who stands in front of me. I have to be sure in the face of those to whom I say me, because I have to say this in front of a you that embraces me and looks after me. I have to say it like this: when I am sure of this you, I am enabled, I am facilitated, I am eager to list all yous that parade in front of me, each in his own order. In the first person, in the first position, that person, you, that deserves the name of love. It gives me tenderness to hear people that love each other, that use the word love. Even the people that they call, they say love. Let's begin to remove the sense of otherness. I am the person in the relationship. The first relationship is at the top so that no one can tear me down. Then I come to the world inside of relationships. The relationships with my father, with my mother, with my sisters, brothers, at school. Relationships, relationships, relationships. And Jesus says to me, look, these relationships that place the me in front of with so many different yous are not a danger, are not a threat, are not a land of conquest from which you look to or you secure in order to use them.
Non è un terreno di conquista.
They are all
Non è
gifts.
qualcosa da cui devi guardarti o che devi accaparrati, che devi
The gift of one person to another person. Let us use a theological term. You are people in communion. Then there is the difference according to the degree of proximity. They are gifts that Jesus has brought to the world to enable to speak to a person that I am me in divine terms and be able to speak to you in the same way.
che sono io in termini divini.
Until the supreme grace of being able to speak like this to a person who comes given into a total sense, as God has done to Adam when he brought Eve. She is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh, and there is the blessedness of the loving meeting. Those who do not have or have not had, and I speak of different vocations, those who have not had must multiply the awareness to others. They must multiply the awareness that the me is relationship. They are words seemingly contradictory. I am all, total, unrepeatable, and I don't need anything. But also, I have a need of everything, especially of another. These two things must be reconciled. When Jesus taught us how to reconcile them, he did this. Firstly, he said, the Father loves you. And then he said, you must love each other. This is my commandment. And then without words, he said to us, when in this love of another, each of you will be faced with evil, refusal, malice, hatred, suffering, be thrown away. What he had to do. When this obliges you to pass through the drama of the passion and the passion of the cross of Christ, I have come here to teach you that love conquers. Love wins. From one who is capable or receives the grace of being able to give a life to the beloved person. So, the three things that Jesus taught us are, there is a total love that grasps us from above. There are the people we love. Many. From me to those in ever-widening concentric circles raiding around us. And that all the times that one will make me suffer, I can look at the crucified Jesus. What can I do if I don't look to crucified Jesus? I was telling you last time about the couples that are thinking of splitting up without even the thought to how they see God the Father. Without the sense of the love that they have also lived. So this is the introduction to all the work we must do. We must use the word love. The word love that means that which binds me to another, to an other than me. I must have two coordinates. when you on a graph.
Se io non ho le coordinate, come si dice,
One, a vertical one,
i grafici,
that allows me to directly grab onto and throw myself directly into the arms of God my Father. And then the other coordinate, horizontal, that allows me to reach everyone, because any difficulty has already been surpassed by a greater love that awaits me. If you knew that where there is the person that makes you suffer, there is also Jesus that awaits you and who tells you, have I not suffered for you? When these coordinates are clear in the heart and in the mind, then we receive all the gift of God and do so in the world. To those who have understood something of all this, Jesus has said, to those who have received much, much will be asked. And in the field of the person, of the me, of the another, of the love which unites them, we Christians have received much. This evening, we want to thank the Lord.
sarà chiesto molto. E nel campo della persona, dell'io, dell'altro, dell'amore che riunisce, noi cristiani abbiamo ricevuto molto. E vogliamo questa sera ringraziarne